morning.
Good morning.
Okay, some of you are awake. My name is Debbie Rehart, and I am your lay liturgist for this morning. I share leadership of today's service with the Reverend Dr. We welcome you to celebrate in the transformative power of a religious community. Whoever you are, wherever you live, whomever you love, whatever you do for a living, you are welcome at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. We have an in-person coffee hour downstairs in the common room right after the service, and we hope you join us, even if just for a few minutes. For those who are joining online this morning, we invite you to participate in a Zoom coffee hour. No coffee with that. The link was provided in the email with today's service links. Online or in person, we are glad you're here. Please rise and body your spirit and join us in our opening hymn, number 6 in the gray hymnal, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
As we light our chalice this morning, this chalice with its freely shared light and freely shared warmth, let us be reminded of the many things that are freely shared with us and that we freely share with others. May we lean into generosity shared from the heart that can warm those around us.
a blessing. So today's story is titled The Ant and the Grasshopper. How many are familiar with the ant and the grasshopper? Good, I see some hands up. So one summer's day, a grasshopper was hopping about in a field, chirping and singing to his heart's content. Hard-working ant passed by, struggling with the weight of the kernel of corn she was taking to the nest. "Why not come and sing with me?" said Grasshopper. "You are working much too hard." "I am helping to store food for the winter," said hard-working ant. "You should be doing this too, since there won't be anything to eat once it gets cold and the snow starts to fall." "Why worry about winter?" said Grasshopper. "There is plenty of food around here." Hard-working ant shook her head and continued on her way, carrying the heavy kernel of corn. Day after day, hard-working ant trudged back and forth from the cornfield to the ant nest, struggling to carry kernel after kernel of corn to store for the winter. Day after day, Grasshopper danced merrily across the fields, teasing hard-working ant. "Forget about your work. Listen up. Enjoy the summer," Grasshopper sang. When the cold winds of winter began to blow and the puffy flakes of snow began to fall, food did indeed become very scarce. Grasshopper soon found himself hungry and cold, but the ants were toasty warm, sharing all the food that they had collected during the summer. Poor Grasshopper came one day to the door of the ant's house, shivering so badly he could hardly knock. Welcoming Ant answered the door and looked at the poor, hungry Grasshopper. "Please," Grasshopper begged, "it is so cold out here, and I am starving. There is no food anymore." Welcoming Ant stepped aside to let Grasshopper in, but another ant stepped forward. It was hard-working Ant, who had watched Grasshopper sing and dance all summer while she worked hard to gather food. "Don't let him in," hard-working Ant protested. "He wasted his summer singing and dancing while we worked hard to store our food. He does not deserve to reap the benefits of our hard work." Welcoming Ant, the one who had been about to let Grasshopper in, shook his head. "That may be so," said Welcoming Ant, "but we cannot allow him to starve. He is a creature just like us. Just because he made a foolish choice, it does not mean we can condemn him to death." Welcoming Ant waved one of his 6 arms and invited Grasshopper inside. Grasshopper eagerly walked into the ant's house and sat right down at the table filled with food. He stuffed himself until he was full, while hard-working Ant stared resentfully at him. Then Grasshopper pushed himself away from the table, and he began to sing. It was a catchy tune, a happy one, and soon all the ants found themselves laughing and dancing, even hard-working Ant. And although that cold, long winter, the ants shared with Grasshopper their food, and Grasshopper shared with them his songs and his joy. They all had a wonderful time, even hard-working Ant. She had to admit the winter time was more pleasant with Grasshopper and his songs. And now we will sing our children to their classes.
Good morning, friends. In September, I went back to Utah to visit my alma mater, Utah State University, and to see old college friends. Utah State in the town of Logan, Utah has held a sacred and almost mythical place in my heart and mind for all these years. In my 4 years there, being 2,000 miles from home, I learned to be strongly independent. I had a great educational experience. I matured, and I even fell in love and proposed to my girlfriend. As some of you know, I'm a lifelong bachelor, so I guess you know how that turned out. It's been 28 years since I was at USU, and visiting again, I had no idea how I'd react to being back in such a special place. Alumni Relations arranged a 3-hour campus tour, but the campus had changed so much since I graduated in 1982. It had twice as many buildings and parking garages. Student population doubled from 10,000 to over 23,000. Frankly, I felt like a stranger. It was like a quote I saw weeks after my return home, which said, "But the thing is, even if I could go back, I wouldn't belong there anymore." It was a day after the tour while golfing with college friends, some I hadn't seen in 41 years, that I had an epiphany. When first seeing each other, we hugged each other. In pictures taken together, we had our arms around one another. You see, it wasn't the campus. It wasn't the majestic Wasatch Mountains. It wasn't the allure of Logan Canyon. It wasn't the beauty of Cache Valley or the view of the snow-capped Wellsville Mountains. It wasn't the open space on the quad or seeing Old Main sitting on the plateau at the base of the mountain. It was not about the place. It was the people. I'd been mistaken all those years, thinking it was about a place. What made it so special was the people. That very significant realization, that new truth, changed me in ways I never expected. And since that revelation, I've come to realize that it's the same with the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. On September 11, 2001, after the planes slammed into the World Trade Towers, the Pentagon, and finally the ground in Shanksville, the leaders of this church decided to hold an ad hoc service that very evening. On Tuesdays, the Mindfulness Meditation Group met here in the sanctuary. We came in and George Hellman, the MMG facilitator, told us that we'd shorten meditation due to the service. In meditation, we sat on cushions, benches, and chairs in a circle right here. At about 7 o'clock, people started coming into the sanctuary, not saying a word, staying absolutely quiet. Close to 7 o'clock, George rang the bell. We ended our meditation and joined everybody for the service. Reverend Howard Daner later told me that the service was held because members of this community felt a need to sit together with the awful events of that day. I do not remember a single thing said during that service. I don't remember a specific song or a responsive reading, but I remember being together. We are about to decide if we're going to take on a capital campaign upon which first appearance seems to be a focus on the repair and much-needed maintenance of the building and grounds, but it's not really about the place. The investment in the physical structures and property is necessary so that the people of this and future generations have a safe place to gather, to express ideas, to talk about and take action on troubling societal problems, and to provide sanctuary for ourselves and other free-thinking people. This is a place to share joys and sorrows, victories and defeats, worries and promises. You see, at this church, we don't save souls. Instead, we comfort, encourage, empower, and enlighten. So in making your decision about whether to support the capital campaign, remember, it's not a place you're supporting, but rather it's people you are supporting. Remember that this community provides a welcoming place for the awkward, the different, the alone, the truth seeker, the disenfranchised, the fringes, the artistic, the wanderers, the questioning, and the compassionate people we find here. This community provides us with the best opportunity to find our true selves on this life's journey. Please support this blessed community by supporting the capital campaign. May you be well, peaceful, and happy. Thank you.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all which we are called to use to build the common good. And make our own days which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
For all life is a gift. The hours of rest and love, the rewards, and even the failures and sorrows we must bear. We give praise and thanks and give voice to all that is our life now in this time of prayer and meditation. You are invited, as you are moved, to share your joys and sorrows in quiet contemplation by writing a card at the back of the sanctuary, and if online, writing them in the chat. Those who are on site may also come forward and place a stone in our common bowl of water where they may be held and blessed. Please now, as you feel moved, share your joys and your sorrows. Let us join in a moment of silence to hold these joys and sorrows. Let us hold these joys and sorrows that have been shared now with from our community. I begin with the concerns and the sorrows. From Jim Kavanaugh, Nan and Jim are waiting to meet with Nan's heart surgeon tomorrow afternoon to learn what he proposes and when the likely bypass surgery will be, hopefully in the next few weeks. She is avoiding crowds meanwhile, but appreciates emails and calls. So holding both of them tenderly. For this individual who we hold with deep compassion, who says, "My abuser has left my house and now it feels like home." And I want to share that Kate Quimby, some of you know that Kate Quimby has moved from her home to Columbia Cottage in Linglestown, and she would really welcome and appreciate visitors. Her room number is 117, and if you need more information, just reach out to the pastoral team or one of your ministers. Evan Hawley shares gratitude and love for this place and this community. And Lois Voigt is giving thanks for Libby Tisdale's birthday today. And our membership team is delighted to be welcoming 3 new members into our congregation today. Janice Myers and Peter and Paula Francese. Did I say your name right? You can tell me later if I've Frances, maybe. Yes. So, for all the joys and sorrows that have been shared, for those that remain silent, we hold them tenderly with compassion, with care, with joy. For the joyful ones, as I said, with care for those that are so tender. And let us hold them now in song.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May
This is a reading entitled The Story Goes by Reverend Gretchen Haley. The story goes that once there was a wise woman traveling all through the mountains. One day, she found a precious stone in a stream. She was so happy and grateful it could change her life. The next day, she met a man traveling just like her through the mountains. He was hungry, and she was happy to share her food. But as she opened her bag, the man saw the stone, and he knew with this stone he would be able to eat all of his favorite foods. His mouth watered, imagining all the incredible flavors and all the ways his life would be filled with so much goodness. Instead of the food, he asked, "Can I have that stone?" The woman looked at him. Of course. And just like that, it was his. The man was so happy. He ran quickly away, afraid that she would change her mind. A few days later, however, the man appeared again, carrying the stone in his hands. "Take it back," he said. "Instead, I hope you can give me something even more precious than this precious stone. I hope you can give me whatever it is within you that made it so easy for you when I asked to just give it away." In this place, for this hour, we are all trying to learn how it is when we are asked to trust, to love, to give of ourselves, to share our blessings, that we can say an easy and great yes. And also, we are here to remember we all carry with us a precious stone that is this great blessing, this gift that is just ours, this gift that we long to offer the world, that in our giving will bless us all the more.
I get free offers all the time. I'm guessing you do too, right? I can't tell you how many free things I've been offered in exchange for answering a survey or signing up for something. Recently, someone was telling me about a great free meal they received in exchange for attending a financial planning presentation. That ended with offers of services, right? I get one of those offers in the mail every so often. I can tell you've heard about these too. Maybe you've even gone to them. I've also been offered free stuff if I buy something, which doesn't really seem free to me. All too often, there are hidden catches and conditions. In the online environment, accessing so-called free information often requires signing up for a newsletter or some other regular communication. And then if I do sign up, and sometimes even if I don't, I find myself inundated with junk mail and offers of services or more information, sometimes free and sometimes not. This strategy of giving things away isn't limited to the marketers. Just think of how often you or someone you know has given or received a kindness or gift with strings attached. For example, have you done any of the following or maybe known someone else who has? And some of these I know I've done, and I'm not going to confess to having done them. So you may not want to either. Offered a compliment in order to receive one in return, or given a compliment in response to one. Done a favor so it will be returned later. Helped out of a sense of obligation. Given money because of being too busy to shop for a gift. Given a gift because it was cheaper than giving money. Reciprocated with a gift when someone else gave one first so as not to be embarrassed or feel cheap. given to look better, kinder, or more generous to others, given to be liked, given only when asked, given because it is expected. Now, some of you may be thinking that some of these aren't really so bad. They aren't such a big deal, really. It's not so bad to compliment someone if they compliment us. In the scheme of things, that seems pretty harmless. Some exchanges can actually help avoid embarrassment and discomfort for everyone. They can head off disappointment. They can also ensure that people don't take advantage of other people's generosity, and they can alleviate some resentment. And it's true that giving in return or giving to receive in return, when it isn't illegal or unethical, is arguably better than not giving at all. And yet, this type of generosity is rooted in a system of exchange, in a system where strings are attached. We live in a society in which gifts with strings has become the accepted and acceptable norm. Giving freely without strings attached is more of the exception, something we celebrate as extraordinary and exemplary. What do we miss out on in this approach to generosity? How does it impact our relationships and our ability to build the common good? Well, perhaps the worst aspect of having an exchange approach to generosity is the effect it has on individuals who are in need of emotional or financial support and who receive assistance or maybe don't. A culture that encourages quid pro quo, strings attached style generosity makes receiving, especially when in need, very difficult, even humiliating. Those who receive are too often made to feel they are inadequate or have failed in some way. They're made to feel that there is a debt they owe, and often enough it is a debt they may never be able to repay. Giving and receiving kindnesses, care, attention, based on the concept of exchange feeds into this consumerist culture of ours. Relationships, love, looks, and everything else can be bought and sold and bartered for the right price. And I'm not talking about money alone here. I think you know that, though money, of course, is a factor. Generosity is this month's Soul Matters theme, and is also one of the new values in our proposed revision statement of Unitarian Universalism, generosity. And it's described this way. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, our presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationship of interdependence and mutuality. An essential part of being a spiritual community, in other words, is to share our presence and our resources with one another and to be of service within the church and to the larger community and to all beings. Unitarian Universalist minister Richard Gilbert describes a time when he was asked about his religion. And he explained that he neither feared hell nor sought heaven. He said he believes in the importance of being good for nothing. Being good for nothing. Generosity is a way of being good for no reason, for no cost. Giving without those strings attached, without expectation, is the deeper spiritual meaning of generosity, and that's what makes it such a big deal. I think of a story of a woman named Anne. When her father got ill, she felt obligated to help him. She was the oldest daughter, and every Sunday after a tiring work week, she made a 3-hour drive to see him. And when she arrived, she was impatient and irritable. Her father always asked what was wrong, and she always muttered that nothing was wrong, nothing's wrong. And then after a few hours, she would make the return trip home. 3 hours back home. So one Sunday at church, Anne heard a talk that changed her life. And here's how she describes what she heard that day. She says the message was this: service is an act of love for another. It's not really me who is giving. I am a vehicle of God's love. I am the hands and feet of God. She was really stunned by this new insight of being a vehicle of love, of being the embodiment of love. And that day she went home and she reflected on her connection to the deep wells of love, to the source of love that some of us may call God and some give other names. She was always so tired that she felt she had nothing left to give when she went to her father's house. But that day her understanding changed entirely. And she changed her approach to visiting her father. Rather than seeing her visit as an obligation, she began to see visiting him as an act of love and an act of service. I think some of you can relate to this. I know I can relate to this from my experience. It doesn't have to do with whether we love the person we're visiting. It has to do with how it becomes a to-do or an obligation or an expectation on our list, right? And she says this is what happened when she began to change how she viewed visiting her father. She said, when I visited my father as an act of love and service, my experience and his was completely transformed. First of all, I started visiting him every other weekend. I realized that if I was too tired, I had nothing to give him. Second, when I felt like a channel of love, I seemed animated by the sparkling energy that just flowed through me. Even though I didn't want anything from him, I believe I received more than he did. I'm so grateful, she says, that I found the groove of service that allowed me to be with my father in ways I will never forget. Anne's story reminds us that when we give out of obligation or as a form of exchange or expectation, we are likely to feel depleted. At these times, it's hard for us to give with open arms and open hearts. These are times, though, when we need to really listen to our lives. We need to pay more attention, to take that time to do that deeper spiritual work, to ask ourselves, is there a way in the midst of exhaustion and obligation to shift our energy? Is there a way for the ant, despite the resentment, to shift the energy toward hospitality? Is it possible to serve in a way that is authentic, one that comes from love, rather than from drudgery and tiredness? Well, when Anne reframed her care for her father as an act of service, she was able to restore her own energy and her compassion. She began to experience more abundance in her life. The point is not for us to give until it hurts. Instead, the point is that when we feel depleted, we need to take time for discernment and to go deeper. We need to get in touch with our own motivation, our own capacity. Anne reimagined and reconfigured her interaction with her father. But, and this is equally important, she came to recognize that she could give more openly, more fully, when she was able to free herself. And that actually meant visiting him less often. So it's interesting how sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to reimagine, to be fully present. She was able to connect to that deeper feelings of love and care that she already had, and to the fullness, a fullness that was already hers. In the Buddhist tradition, there's a wonderful metaphor of the begging bowl. And that metaphor reminds us of this fullness of what we already have, that all life is a gift. Let me just tell you how this came to be. Shortly before Buddha reached enlightenment, a young woman offered him a bowl of milk rice. And at that time, he was eating very little and practicing austerity. And he realized he would need more strength to reach enlightenment. So he divided what was put into the bowl into 49 portions that sustained him on his way to enlightenment. Once he reached enlightenment, he threw the golden bowl into the river, having no need for possessions. And the Buddhist practice of the begging bowl developed from this. Each morning, a monk goes into the village with an empty bowl in their hands. They live off whatever the people put into the bowl. Not too many of us would willingly choose to depend on the generosity of others for our day's nourishment, like the monk. But we can learn from this example. The begging bowl is a metaphor for how we can approach our lives. You see, from that Buddhist perspective, the begging bowl is already and always full. The begging bowl simply offers us a way to discover the fullness that is already naturally occurring in our lives, just as Anne discovered the fullness of love already flowing through her, which she already had access to. The begging bowl represents not what we need, it represents what we already have. It represents our desire also to benefit all beings. It's a symbol of a spirit of generosity and abundance. And I think of this Buddhist practice as one of living one's principles in daily life. Just think of this practice. Walking into the village with this bowl every day. And this practice actually reminds me of our second Unitarian Universalist principle. And that principle affirms and promotes justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. To give generously and also to receive generously. These are two parts of one whole. To give generously, to receive generously, is to give ourselves from a place of fullness and compassion. It is to give with confidence in the abundance and the goodness of life. To offer our care and our support, to listen, to share, to seek justice for all beings without expectation of something in return. That is a true act of generosity. May we each learn to see that our bowls are already full. Our hearts are already full. May we give thanks and praise for the gift of life by sharing our blessings. As Reverend Gretchen Haley said so eloquently in our reading this morning, when we are asked to trust, to love, to give of ourselves, may we say an easy and great yes, because we all carry with us a precious stone, which is a gift that is just ours, and in giving it away, will bless us and each other all the more. May we learn and remember, as Reverend Richard Gilbert says, to be good for nothing. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
The Unitarian Church of Harrisburg is, as always, a freely gathered church of free people. The church is created, sustained, and supported by us. Each month, we share half of our Sunday plate with a local nonprofit organization. For the month of November, we are sharing the plate with the Harrisburg Area Food Pantry, which was formerly known as the Ecumenical Food Pantry. HAFP's mission is to support those in the greater Harrisburg area experiencing food insecurity, primarily by providing emergency food assistance. If you wish to contribute online, visit uchbg.org for options. Your financial support and commitment matter. Please consider giving what you're able.
These gifts are generously given and gratefully received. And just as we make our financial commitments, we also recommit to our covenant to one another. Will you join me in reading the words of our covenant? Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. We do indeed get by with a little help from one another. May it be so. Amen. Blessed be.